חמדה ליבי לחוסנה ואל תתעלם. אלה חמדה ליבי לחוסנה ואל תתעלם. אלה חמדה ליבי לחוסנה ואל תתעלם. Let's cover it. This is Rabbi. Speak.
That's all right. You may be seated. Shabbat Shalom. This week, there has been one question that I've seen permeating my social media feeds. It's been on the news. Why? We've seen devastation from the forest fires, from the wildfires happening in California. And the question that is being asked is, why did this happen? And it starts at the beginning, the question, why wasn't there water? Why weren't we more prepared? But then the question goes deeper. Why did it happen now? Why me? And in these questions, I've seen interview after interview. I've listened to my friends, some of whom have lost everything, sit in that question and be asked, how will we go forward? Last night on CNN, there was a especially profound interview with the family whose entire house had burned. They'd asked the firefighters that went to their house to bring back something, just something. They found a ring of seashells that had been put back together, and when they gave them to the family's response was, this is the hope. This seashell ring that's left, all that's left of everything we have, this is what we can believe in, because there's always something left. The question is, why does this happen, and how can we believe in God, in faith, in something bigger than ourselves when bad things happen? You may know the book by Harold Kushner, but it's not why bad things happen to good people, it's when bad things happen to good people. Because we know that bad things will happen, and this is not to downplay these very real crises of faith that people go through. But we know that bad things will happen, and what we see is the way through is in faith. Faith in humanity, faith in other people, and yes, for many, faith in God. Why believe in God in a time where it seems like if there was a God, you would want them to act? And the answer is in those seashells and in our Torah portion this week. Our Torah portion this week tells us why faith matters. And in this parsha, we receive the reasoning for transferring this belief, this faith, from generation to generation. We read Parshat Vayechi, the last in the book of Genesis, and the text begins with the request of Jacob not to be buried in Egypt, continues with him blessing each of his sons in his final hours, and then ends with Joseph making the same request of his father, that he not be buried in Egypt, but be buried back in Israel when they finally are able to leave Egypt. Toward the end of our Torah portion, we read about the grandfather's blessing. Joseph takes his children, Ephraim and Manasseh, to his father Jacob for their blessing. As Jacob blesses them, he says in chapter 48, verse 16, "In them may my name be recalled, and the names of my fathers Abraham and Isaac." The blessing he invokes upon his grandsons is that they may find faith in the actions of their forefathers and ours, the faith of Lech Lecha, of Abraham going forth, and that faith will benefit them as a strong belief in God. Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the founder of Chabad, comments on this verse to say, the most valuable legacy we can leave our children and grandchildren is bequeathing to them the faith that sustained us. In other words, the transmission of faith supersedes transmission of material wealth. As far back as the Torah, we learn that blessings and family values are what matters. In a world in which this last week has shown us people losing all of their material possessions, Parshat Vayechi stands to remind us that it's not the entirety of the artifacts and objects that make up our lives or our faith. It is the connection, the story, the coming together, the being with one another, and the transmission of these values that makes up Judaism, that makes up our faith, that helps us as an entire world continue to be able to move forward. May the flames of destruction be extinguished swiftly. May the flame that we know be the Ner Tamid, that eternal flame of faith, of community. May it be kindled brighter every day. Amen. Our Torah reading this morning begins on page 305.